And welcome back to Good Morning Maine. I'm here with Tim and Susan Caverly. They are Maine authors out of the ALLAGASH. Thank you folks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're here to talk about your book, An Allagash Haunting, the story of Emile Camille. And I'm going to just read off the back really quick to introduce it. Olivia's mother had always said that Maine's Allagash River trip was not like any other canoe trip, but she would never explain what she meant. A violent thunderstorm is building as 10-year-old Olivia is canoeing and camping deep in the Maine woods with her family. Travel with the girl as she learns about one of our nation's wild rivers, where she discovers an unknown secret about her mother when she comes face to face with the last thing anyone could ever imagine. So this is just one of many of your books, right,
Yes,
Tim?
yes, one of 11.
And how, so these are all kind of centered around the Allagash, correct?
Yes, yes.
What's so special about the Allagash to you? What made you want to write about the Allagash in Maine?
Well, I was the park supervisor up there for 18 years.
Gotcha.
I went to work in there in the 70s on survey line, and I started getting the intrigue to the area from living in the minus degrees of temperatures for several months.
That'll inspire you with something.
And people were always calling saying, we've had a special experience on the Allagash. And it led to all kinds of things. And this book came from one that some volunteers had one night when they stayed in a boarding house that was over 80 years old.
Gotcha. Gotcha. It's not an old trapper's lodge?
No, it's a boarding house that was used by lumber crews.
Cool.
At Churchill Dam, halfway down the Allagash. Built about 1925. And there's some volunteers that came in to work for me for 8 weeks doing projects around the river. And they stayed in tents, and I think it rained every night.
Wow.
They came to this old boarding house at Churchill Dam and said, can we stay inside tonight?
Yep.
And I said, sure, but nobody has for 70 years.
Wow.
They said, we don't care, we just want to get in and get out of the rain.
Yeah.
So they went in, laid out their bedrolls, and before they could fall asleep, they heard footsteps coming downstairs from the upstairs old bunk room.
No, thank you.
Which used to be right full of lumberjacks that were cutting wood in the area. And they knew there wasn't supposed to be anybody there, so they got and they looked all around. There wasn't anybody there.
Yep.
So they went back to bed. 2 hours later, they heard fiddle music coming from every room in that old building.
Wow.
And that's what they reported to me. And they were out of there. They, with the footsteps of fiddle music, they went right back outside and set their tents in the pouring rain.
What?
They were not going to try to sleep in that place.
Yeah.
So that was where the idea for the story came from.
Wow. And there's been plenty of stories too, as I can see. How many books again have you written?
We've written 11.
Wow.
But there's a real history of mystery on the Allagash.
Yeah.
All the way back to Chief Henry Red Eagle out of Greenville.
Yep.
He was a storyteller, actor, Maine's youngest guide at 14. And he tells the tale of an Indian maiden that comes out at the head of 40-foot-high Allagash Falls.
Yep.
And jumps off once a year looking for a lost love that had gone over the falls.
Yeah.
And then in the sequel, The Allagash Haunting, you can actually read about an alien abduction that occurred up to 1976.
That one's iconic. Yeah.
And that's in the top 10 questions we get asked.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a guy at a yard sale about that recently, and it got a little heated pretty quick.
People want to know where the abduction occurred so they can go be abducted.
Yeah.
And other people don't even want to go in the lake.
Right, right. So this one specifically, is this one for juveniles?
It started out being for middle school.
Yep.
But all ages like it, and
Yeah.
they asked for more.
And that's what I noticed too. I was like, I would read this in a day.
It's been made into a stage play and there's a radio broadcast. And we have
Cool.
the script available for communities that want to put it on. It's been performed about 8 times so far.
Wow. Wow. So you guys are on the way to today, right, to go speak about your program for schools, right?
Yes.
Do you guys want to explain that a little bit?
We have 6 different programs from pre-K to adult in schools, and we'll go in and take them into the deepest part of the Allagash waterway to build interest in reading and learning about our natural world.
Cool.
And recently, we went to a school and did a program, and a little guy comes up to me afterwards and said, I thought this was going to be boring, but it wasn't.
Awesome.
So that's a pretty good recommendation, we thought.
And Susan, you were saying earlier about how the books are a great resource for kids who are going and doing that trip, right?
Right, yes. Especially the haunting and heading north, you do the whole trip. So people are taking it with them. And at night, If the campsite is mentioned, they'll read about it, and a lot of times we add other interesting things about the area. So normally people paddling by would never know something existed,
Yeah.
but by sitting by the campfire at night and reading about it, then they learn a lot more about the area.
And that's such an important tradition
Yes.
to keep continuing on. And what a
Yes.
better way to learn it in school. That's really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, they'll go home and talk to mom and dad and say, Tim and Sue are going to be at a sportsman show, or they're going to be at a library. Let's go meet them. And so we meet the parents quite often.
Right.
And generally, after we release the book, we get asked, when's the next one coming out?
Yeah.
So folks are very kind to us.
Yeah, that is exciting. That is exciting. And I mean, there was a letter you wanted to read too today, right? Are you
Yes.
ready to read that, or did you want any more
Almost,
set up?
almost.
Okay.
The volunteers,
Yeah.
they went, after they got the next morning out of their wet tent,
Yeah.
they came over to see me because I was living in the headquarters there at the time. And they said, there's a ghost in the boarding house.
Yeah.
I said, did you see an apparition? They said, no, but we're sure something's there.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit while, and then after a while they went out to go to do their work. And a legendary Maine guide, a close friend of ours, Gil Gilpatrick, came in. And he said, Tim, I'm writing a newspaper article about the Allagash. Is there anything new to report? And I said, well, we had a ghost sighting last night.
Yeah.
And he said, tell me the story, which I did. And he said, what would the ghost's name be? And I said, well, our letter carrier that comes in twice a week, his last name's Camille. And I worked with a lumberjack whose first name was Emile, so the ghost name could be Emile Camille.
Yeah.
And he said, great. And he went out and wrote an article about it, The Haunting of Churchill Dam by Emile Camille. And the article came out very, very well.
Yeah.
Now, Gil knows that no ghost is seen. Gil knows he and I made the name up. And yet a month after that article appeared in the paper, he gets this letter in the mail, which Sue is going to read.
Okay. Gotcha.
Bonjour, Emile. Your beautiful story about my cher Emile brought tears to my eyes and to the 24 eyes of our 12 children. In your article, you described the real Emile. It seems like only yesterday that we would hear our dearest Emile limping to the kitchen door. I know he only came home in the spring and left in the fall, but that made his twice yearly visits all the more welcome. The family was so sad when we lost Emile in the accident. We were so proud of him and the music he could put together. Oh, how he liked to fiddle and to do the jig. If anything could make him come back, it would be his sheer music. Sometimes Emile would get so taken up in his music that he would throw down the fiddle and dance and dance. Emile never let his bad leg get in the way of his dancing. Because his bad leg did not dance as good as his well leg would dance faster than his bad leg. This always made him dance in petite circles.
Yeah.
I remember that one night at Churchill Depot, Verre de Chêne we called it then, Emile had been fiddling to the jam on Gary's Rock. Well, during one inspiring lick, Emile threw down his fiddle, and he danced so hard and so quick that he actually screwed his back leg, the one with the brace, into the wooden floor. The music had to be stopped, and Emile backed off before the dance could go on.
Wow.
Merci, Monsieur Gil, for telling the story of our cher Emile so well and bringing back fond memories. My family hope that you and Mrs. Gil sont très bien. Sincerely, Madame Emile Camille.
Wow.
So he gets this letter about a fictional character from the wife.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of mystery in the Northwoods.
Yeah. And what would compel you to think of a name like that? I mean, especially the volunteers heard fiddling.
Right.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was Mr. Camille was our postman. He came in twice a week, and woodcutters common name is Emile in some areas up there.
That's unexplainable.
And so there's a Mrs. Emile Camille somewhere.
Wow. Wow.
Maybe we could get her in.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, you let me know. You have my email. That's exciting. Well, thank you both very much for coming in today. I hope you can always keep documenting these stories. This is incredible.
Thank you,
you.
Emma.
Of